well, you need to get what you pay for. So, spend $200 or $300 on a coat or whatever. But I really do think the First Ascent series has some great stuff for the price. And then on top of that, I use Mountain Equipment. And they're a fantastic brand. They're English based. They're based in the UK, in England, and they're kind of an up and coming outfitter here in the Northeast. And so for my top layer, that's what I use. And for my base layer, if it's really cold, I'll put a merino wool base layer on. I actually normally don't hike with a base layer. I have my First Ascent pants, which are stretchy, and they have a fleece line. So they're fleece line pants. So that fleece line is essentially, it breathes and it stretches, and essentially that is my second layer. So I'm super warm in these pants. I use Oboz Bridger boots. Those are kind of just the ones that I just had. Like, they work fine. They're Gore-Tex, 200 grams insulation. I haven't really found myself needing much more than that. I do know that 400 or 600 or even 800 gram insulation can go a long way with peaks being super, super cold here, but my feet don't get really cold that often, and I have darn tough wool socks. And so I'll just have those two things on. And then my pack. It's Osprey Mutant 38, super lightweight, really great pack for the winter specifically, not for the summer. You will die because there's no ventilation in the back. And I have only been able to use a water bladder once this entire season. So normally what I do is you put the water in an Nalgene with a wool sock and turn it upside down and put the water in there like 80 degrees before you start. And that's been pretty much fine with me. Except there is one thing that I bring in my pack that I've not seen a lot of people do. And that is have a small 16-ounce thermos with boiling water in it. Great for like emergency situations. If like, for example, like I needed to warm up an appendage or something like that, I have plastic baggies too that I can just put the hot water in that and then warm up your feet or something like that. But that's not the main reason. The main reason why I bring it is because then I can unscrew that whenever I want. And when my water freezes, I just dump it right in there and it becomes room temperature. That way I can regulate the amount of water that I'm taking in, so I'm actually drinking enough, and that it's also comfortable to drink it, because no one likes drinking cold water. And when you do, it's much harder to drink more. On Allen, let's see here. I didn't actually, I don't know. I think it's because I spent the night beforehand. The water wasn't as warm when I wanted to use it, and one of my poles ended up getting frozen and stuck, and so I needed to use some of the water to extend my pole. So there's only one time I got to make my water warmer, but it wasn't too great. So that was the only time I really wasn't able to drink too much water, and so I was kind of dehydrated on that one. But I think a way of keeping your water as warm as possible is super, super key. And that's why I always have like the little thermos full of water. So that's like my main tip is keeping your water, because water is like, if you're dehydrated, that's going to be the first thing that like other than the cold killing you if you're overnight, not having water sucks.
Yes.
Ever.
I've also been the recipient of Jonathan sharing his boiling water to melt some of my frozen water in my Nalgene, so I appreciate that. And it is a nice little tip. Bring a thermos with boiling water. You don't need much too. If your water gets frozen,
sure,
you don't need much to throw in there, and then suddenly, we're good now. Mm-hmm. And it does indeed warm it up, because man, cold water when you're out there and it's 0 degrees, it's brutal.
So like in my pack specifically, how my layering system works is I'll put like my outer shell coats, the things that I know I'll need for the summit, at the very bottom of the pack, and my extra pair of wool socks, and then I have an SOL bivy. It's like a fleece lined, waterproof, windproof bivy that's like half the size of an Nalgene that I put there in the bottom of the pack. That also isn't really usable well overnight if you need to spend the night somewhere, if you don't have like a thermarest or some type of pad underneath you, because then the insulation can't really work well. So that's why it's also really important to bring something like that. It's also really nice to sit on a pad when you're eating lunch or something like that.
And they don't take up much space in your pack. And you can get those.
You strap it on the outside of your pack too.
Yeah, you could get those accordion kind of style
Thermarest
ones where
Z-Lite.
Yeah, they break down quite small.
And then on top of that, I'll put like a big bag of food, my water, extra pair of gloves. Different. I probably bring about 3 pairs of gloves depending on the weather conditions. Super light pair, medium pair, and like my mitts. And then I have my Spot Gen 3 GPS SOS communications device, which I think is definitely necessary for everyone, because no matter how skilled you are, or how much knowledge or experience you have in the park, there are things not even weather related, not even trail or mountain related, that can cause you to need like rescue or something like that. Simply, I just saw the article the other day of the two ladies that got rescued by Scott Van Leer a couple summers ago because she was coming down from Marshall in the summer. She slipped and fell on a root, and that root punctured her quad or her calf, and she was not able to walk on it because it punctured the muscle, so she couldn't move. And so, I mean, it's simple things like that. There's absolutely something you wouldn't have even have thought could ever happen to you in a million years. Easy can happen to you. And so I think that's a really important thing. So pretty much that's all I really do bring. I do bring a compass as well, just in case for some reason I find myself on a summit or somewhere in a whiteout condition. That's something that, common sense or knowledge of the trails will not work, is sense of direction. So that's also a huge thing. So that's pretty much all that I pack. And at the end of the day, with the water and everything, it's only weighs like 20 pounds. And my snowshoes, I use MSR Evo Ascent snowshoes. And the biggest thing that I discovered this winter that's like a huge benefit is the heel lift in the back of them. Massive game changer. I've met people who don't like them, and you know who you are.
Yes, Brian. How dare you?
Yeah. And
how dare you have them and not use them?
Yeah. So they're huge. They take like 10 or 15% of that extra work off of the inclines, as well as trekking poles. Like, I actually used to not really like them, but now in the winter, absolute must. And I really think I'm going to be using them in the summer too, when I'm not trail running. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's a good run through to what you have in your pack, and it's also
an extra headlamp.
Always the extra headlamp. Actually, while we're on that, always have extra batteries in your pack, but I actually recommend having an extra headlamp, because if you're out there, obviously it's good to have a backup in general, but if you're out there and your batteries die, it's so annoying to be trying to switch batteries, whereas if you just have a second headlamp, you can just go to that and you're back up and running in seconds. I highly recommend that. They're so cheap, and to have to switch the batteries and fumble with that in the dark, if it is, even though you should have two flashlights, period, but just get a second headlamp. It's such an easier switch than rebatting, especially when it's cold.
One thing you don't know, actually, I
know everything.
Yeah, you don't know this.
Don't say that.
Trust me. No one knows this, unfortunately, and I'm somewhat ashamed to say it, but I will, because it's kind of funny. Even I forget my headlamp, because I did this winter. One time, I was rushed to get out of the door because I was trying to make like spontaneous decisions, and my headlamp's rechargeable, and so I had it plugged in, and my friend actually had my other headlamp, and it was packed away in his bag, and I forgot about it. And so I went to go do Giant and Rocky Peak Ridge for sunset, and I don't know why. I just completely blanked. I even looked over everything. I was like, okay, I have everything. And I don't know why. I just completely forgot. And right when I started going into the call between Giant and Rocky Peak Ridge, I was like, oh no. And I looked at my pack, realized I didn't have it. But the good thing is I have I do not recommend this. Okay. This is just what I did. I am very good at keeping my phone warm. Okay, and my phone has never died, and I know technology can be unreliable. I have an iPhone 11, which is a very, very modern phone, and so it is reliable when you know how to keep it alive.
You're so hip with the iPhone 11.
I know. I'm not the type of person that's like, oh, you know what, you're good with just your phone and that's it. Like, no. I use my phone a lot, but I'm not the only thing relying on
It's a useful tool, but it should not be your
primary
tool.
And so my phone it's always on airplane mode though, just to reserve battery.
Absolutely.
I don't want it constantly searching, but I always have it. I always have it next to skin. And it's always warm, and I can tell because when I pull it out of my pocket, it's covered in sweat. But I know it's warm, and it hasn't failed me yet. But I have this chest mount with my camera on my chest, and so what I did is I turned my flashlight on, and I put it in I'm visualizing this for James right now. I put my phone inside of my chest mount, and it just sticks out just perfectly with the flashlight on, where it's hands-free, and I have this chest light essentially, and it's next to my chest as well, so it didn't die, and it wasn't that cold of a day either.
Sure. And you look like an alien, so that's cool.
Sure, yeah, but so yeah, I mean, Headlamp, I definitely am scared about one day possibly for some reason trying to get back to my car in the pitch black without a headlamp and with no moon. I can't even like picture what that's like. I don't want to have to go through that.
Sure. And we all make mistakes. Everyone's forgotten things. Everyone's made mistakes. They don't have this, they don't have that. Obviously, let's try to avoid it, but you were able to get out, so no harm, no foul. Plus, it's a fluke. It was a fluke. It happens. But I have some final questions that I'm going to ask all of my guests here on the Summit Sessions. And Jonathan already went through what's in his backpack. So we get that. And a great explanation as to what you keep in your pack. Is there anything else that you specifically keep in your backpack that's totally a Jonathan Zaharek, just little, I have to have this in my pack?
My microfiber cloth for my camera.
There you go.
Because my lens, the thing is the camera that I shoot my videos with is the same camera that I shoot my photos with. And I have this really great microfiber cloth, colloidal silver infused fibers, and I will just take that out and just wipe my lens off if I need it, which you'd be surprised happens a lot.
Yeah, totally. So now you have some big summer plans. Hit me with those real quick as to what this single season Winter 46 is kind of phase one as to what your real goal is.
Sure.
Here in your move. You uprooted your whole life, 1,000+ miles over to the Adirondacks. You have a goal, and goals are good in life. So
Right.
take me through what your next goal is after the single season Winter 46.
So one of my favorite things is challenging yourself. Once
Amen.
I discovered that was actually something that I could do because I never had that option or ability in Ohio. I never had a reason to just challenge myself and feel like find something that I could love and at the same time try to push as far as I possibly can. And for me, that was the Adirondacks. Once I became a 46er, it unlocked this whole new perception and world of not only my athletic ability, but just passion for the mountains in general. And I think this is one way you described the relationship with the high peaks, which it's a simple, but yet it's right on, and it's romantic. It is a romantic relationship. Every single peak, everyone has its own unique personality, memory, and some you favor more than others. Not saying you favor brother or sisters more than others, but you really become this family with them, and you just, especially when you're out there as much as I am, and although I didn't grow up in the high peaks, just the last 2 or 3 years has just sometimes it has brought me to tears just being out in the wilderness and being able to connect with these mountains because it's so hard to describe and put into words. That's why I do a lot of the videos and photos, because that is the best way for me to express how I feel about these mountains. And I truly have a desire in these peaks to just, I don't even know, it's hard to explain. So with that, as I was able to discover my ability more, and the last summer I really got into trail running, I was really able to just kind of push my limits, see what I was able to do. I ran Cascade back to my car to car in an hour and 14 minutes. And then I did out to Haystack from the lodge and back to my car in a just about 4-hour round trip moving time. And then
that is lightning speed.
It doesn't.
It
takes most people 5 hours just to get there one way.
Yeah, that's wild. We can thank Kira for that.
Yeah, sure, definitely.
He met our friend Kira out for her 46th peak on Haystack. So amazing.
Yep. And so that kind of just really, really stoked me. So getting into my summer plans, this has been the last 3 years in the making. It was really at first I really just wanted to hike all the 46 high peaks in one hike, just as maybe a 13-day thing, really just to encapsulate all of it.
A through hike.
Right. And then once I really found out what my beast mode looks like in the summertime, and really being able to learn from other people and to implement those strategies and those tips and stuff like that, I really started to set my mind on the unsupported through hike record of the 46 high peaks. Jan Welford and his buddy Corey set the original record. Well, Ted Kaiser, Cave Dog, was the original setter, but Corey and Jan made it like famous, and so once they did it in their record time, it stood for like nearly 15 years, and then since then only